up, y'all? This is Lorraine Lindsey, the Lorraine Lindsey podcast show, and you are watching another episode of The Mindsetters. And I'm really excited because we are concluding our very first three-part series. We're concluding it on insecurities, and today we have the fellas in the building talking about what men are actually insecure about. It's the first time we're actually having men on the show. But before I introduce these fabulous gentlemen who are here to join us, please do not forget to subscribe, hit the like button, give us your comments, tell us topics you want to hear from us. Thank you so much also for all the support I've been getting. The subscriptions have been going up, so I do appreciate it. Again, if you like the show, hit the like button. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
We have two very special guests. First, we have our good friend, my good friend, actually, Mr. Rodney Allgood. And a little bit about Mr. Rodney Allgood. Rodney is the creator of Mindshift 360, a high-impact program helping high-achieving entrepreneurs break through ceilings, limiting beliefs, and confront and comfort zones so they can soar to greater heights, expanding their focus in business from not just from the bottom line, but to leaving a lasting legacy. He has 3 decades of personal experience as an entrepreneur and an industry leader. Rodney has learned that it is not enough to amass money. It is critical to align your business with your passion and your purpose. Rodney has successfully coached professionals struggling with stagnation in their careers and businesses. He is also a former host of iHeartRadio's show, It's All Good. Rodney has empowered people with the message that we are truly the screenwriters of our own lives. Whether he is speaking at a high school, universities of Fortune 500 companies, Rodney is able to inspire rising stars as well as re-aspiring those who may have found themselves adrift in life or in business to align their self-belief with their level of potential. As an award-winning speaker, Rodney deeply resonates with diverse audiences by seamlessly blending wisdom from his business and with divinely inspired poetry. Rodney,
It is a pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that you're here. I appreciate having you. And of course, we have Mr. Ruben De Silva, the man, the myth, the legend. I'm kidding. Ruben here, a little background on Mr. De Silva. I call you Mr. De Silva because you are a well-loved high school teacher. But here's a little bit of background with Mr. Ruben De Silva. He is an educator from Las Vegas, Nevada. He was born in Mumbai, India. Did I say that right?
Yes, that's
Mumbai,
correct.
I always say it. And immigrated to the United States at the age of 2. He received an associate's degree from the Community College of Southern Nevada in 2006. He received his bachelor's degree in American history from UNLV in 2010. De Silva would go on to complete his master's degree in global affairs with a focus on religion, globalization from the University of Pennsylvania in 2011, and a second master's degree from Yale University in comparative religion and politics in 2013. He is a frequent speaker and lecturer on a whole host of issues, topics ranging from history and politics to religion and philosophy. De Silva also served in the U.S. Marines and was deployed in Iraq in 2007. Ruben has awarded both the Purple Heart and the Navy Achievement Medal for his bravery in Iraq. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. For
Wow,
having me.
what achieved, astute, fine gentlemen we have here on the show today. And of course, I can't forget to introduce my beautiful co-host,
Yes.
Miss Carmen Smith. And as you all know, Carmen Smith is a realtor here in the local Las Vegas Valley. So if you are looking to buy or sell a home, please get in contact with Miss Carmen. You can reach her on her IG follow, which is Carmen Smith _realtor, correct? Okay. So thank you, Carmen. You know I love you. Gentlemen, today we are concluding this 3-part series on insecurities. And we've had some beautiful women come on and talk about what us women are insecure about. And I said to myself, it's time that we get men on the show. And what a better way to, first of all, start the show with you two, but to also talk about what it is that makes men insecure, because I think there's some misconceptions with that. And I think some of them might actually be similar to what us women are insecure about, and some of them are completely opposite. And I think it's important through conversation, because again, this is the Mindsetter show where we believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. And so that comes through communication.
That is true.
All right, so let's get started. I put a couple bullet points together. And I figured that insecurities for men, I broke it down into 3 categories. We've got money, we've got love, and then we've got yourselves.
Good
So let's go. I think we should go into the money first. The ladies like to talk about the love, but I think the men like to talk about the money first. So let's hit that first bullet point on money. What do you all feel about as far as insecurities when it comes to financial stability and the responsibilities of that? Do you, as men, feel that there's a great deal of insecurity as men when it comes to that particular thing?
Yeah, I think if a man is not where he thinks he should be, especially the older he gets, there's a lot of insecurity with that because there's a lot of expectation that comes with that. Men's value comes from, or they perceive it as them being a provider, right? And if they cannot provide at the level that they think they should, they get insecure about that. They try to mask it. They try to act like it's not there, but it's there. That goes hand in hand with relationships, which we'll talk about later. But absolutely, that's a huge thing for men. That's the thing they measure themselves with. Women might be beauty and things like that. For men, money is a huge issue.
And why do you think that is?
I think I'm 100% agree with Rodney, and it's not just that I think. There's also a lot of studies out there from the academy, from many surveys, university studies even, that show that society gauges men and women on different things in terms of how they're valued. And as you mentioned, like there was a one that came from Psychology Today magazine that said that women are, society values them for their ability to bear children, youth, beauty, those sort of things. And men, on the other hand, are valued for other things, primarily bring home the bacon. Are you able to be responsible? Can you maintain a family? Can you hold down a household? And this is not just our society. This is if you can make the argument saying that this is how humanity has always assessed the value of a man. So 100%, it's not just that, we as men feel this and know this, within our own social lives, but there's a lot of academic research that also shows that this is how society will judge and value a man as well.
And you know what I feel like it is interesting about that too, because it's particularly in Western civilization, right, in the American culture, so to speak, you're starting to see trends where women are much more in the work field. They're creating their own careers. Some women are choosing not to have children, and they have their men, and it's almost like this competition. And so, although the history and globally, it's kind of a cultural thing that men are to be the breadwinner, women are kind of catching up.
Yeah, that's true.
And do you feel like that makes men feel insecure when their women are there?
100%. Because back in the day, work was based on brawn, muscle, strength. Now it's not, right? With the computer age and information age, the playing field's even. So guys, they're very confused about their place today.
Interesting.
Right? Because what does the woman need a man for? And a lot of times, unless a man has a really nice income, the woman might a lot of times make more than a man. And it really makes a man wonder, what is his value? What is he bringing to the table? When a woman can do exactly what he does, if not more.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's actually some data that goes, hand in hand in this too. The current census is also showing this, that when it comes to household incomes, and this is particularly true for Black and brown, situations here as well, where the women are actually graduating from college at a higher level than the men and are actually earning more. I think this has been true in the Black community since at least 2010. And it's also becoming, there's parity now in the brown community as well. There's still a gender gap when it comes to white Americans between male and female.
That's interesting, actually.
But it's actually come to a point where there's equality, and in some cases, women are, for a fact, graduating at higher rates, getting into better careers, and making more. And we have to reevaluate, ourselves. I mean, in the end, I personally think it's a good thing that women are finally, getting to a place where they can earn those paychecks, where they're actually, able to have some say even in a household, in a family situation. But on the same token, that goes against the grain of what men have oftentimes.
Yeah, so that was going to be exactly what I was going to say. You were going to say something, Carmen?
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that. But it's great on one hand, but it could be problematic on another hand in the household because of the insecurities that come with that. Right? So it's like, I had a personal issue with that with my ex-husband. And we were fine when I was an executive assistant, but when I became an executive and I started to first make the same income and then surpass his income, it caused a lot. And it was nothing that he talked about. He never said to me, I'm feeling a little vulnerable, a little insecure, which is something we'll get into on some of the other topics or bullet points. But it was something that I felt. And it was frustrating. It caused resentment for me because I'm like, I'm not dimming my light for you. And I don't see you as less of a man. And so
I've had that kind of experience too, like with what I do for a living. If I'm showing men property or something, it's like, and I'm just in dating situations. So it would be like, well, that man must like you. And it's like, why does he have to like me? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing my job, like, but it's like minimizing me, trying to minimize my light. Like I'm going to be higher than him or something. And it's
Yeah.
like, you're not even paying my bills, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as far as the dating aspect, but I could understand how that, I don't know. If in a marriage, if I was making more money, like, I don't know how we would come to that balance where there wouldn't be an insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a threat too that men won't acknowledge.
Which is
When you make more than your man, there's probably a subconscious worry that you'll meet someone
Mm-hmm.
who makes more.
oh,
Like his value is diminished, right? You're doing real well. Well, here comes Mr. Millionaire Man,
Mm-hmm.
right? That he can't compete with.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a man's mind, we believe that women want to be taken care of,
which is true.
It's
Right?
true.
It's accurate.
right? But
Yes.
when a man's making more,
Yeah.
when a woman's making more than a man, then a man subconsciously might be thinking that the person who can really take care of her on the next level is another man.
You know what's interesting? And this is why communication is so important, right? And the reason why I say that is because, for example, for my own self, I am a successful woman. I do well. I do very well for myself. But I've never needed a man monetarily.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time too, I don't want a man who doesn't have the same level of grit and determination that I do. It's not a money level; it's a ambition level
Mhm.
that makes me thrive. But what I need from a man isn't monetary, isn't physical. I like to receive gifts, but it's not a big deal to me.
Mhm.
I need something deeper than
Yeah.
that. I need peace of mind.
Yeah.
I need to feel that he's secure with who I am and my growth. So it's interesting, but that lies in a conversation.
Yeah.
So real quick, because I want to go on to the next one, because we have some good ones, and we're already starting off really good. So I want to make sure we get most of them in, or we might have to make this a 4-part series.
4-part. Call us
So
back.
let's go
I
to the
got you.
next one real quick. He's insecure about his failures. Is that something you two can relate to or speak on as far as that? And why?
Mhm.
Why would that? Because now, real quick, these topics, these things, these bullet points, I didn't just pull them out of thin
Yeah.
air. I actually was doing some research, and I found a lot of the articles that I was reading, some of these were the most common bullet points that popped up. And so I said, well, let me talk about these ones. So do you guys want to touch on this one about failure?
Yeah, I personally think that we shouldn't be afraid of failure. That's something that I grew up an athlete. Served in the Marine Corps. I've been a coach myself, and now have been involved in local leadership roles. And failure is actually, if you can learn from it, it's actually a good thing. It's actually like a healthy form of masculinity to understand that everybody fails, but you got to grow from that point. But there are people out there, men and women, I'll say, who see failure and just stop. They can't overcome that psychological barrier that they had to deal
true.
with at that time. So in the end, I think security at a very innate level in human beings, we have to deal with it, and we have to deal with it sometimes either by progressing past it, or it's gonna hold us back. And I think there
Right.
are times when it will hold us back because we're just scared of failing again.
Well, I've been there. When I got divorced in 2008, so the economy was bad, and I lost 3 businesses, and I lost everything, right? And I'm very good about processing failure, but when it happens over and over and over again,
Mhm.
and when you're losing so much, I lost my family, I lost my businesses, taking that many L's in a row
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
gets to you.
Ooh.
You kind of get insecure. You kind of start doubting yourself.
Especially, I'm not to sound sexist or whatever, but I would assume, especially for a man.
Yeah, absolutely, because I was defined by my success.
Mhm.
Mm.
I was very successful very young.
Mhm.
And suddenly here I was in my early 40s with nothing,
Mhm.
right? And I just had a stretch where everything seemed to go wrong. And after a while,
Mhm.
it's like somebody who can't hit the baseball, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in a slump.
Yeah.
First, it doesn't bother you. Right? This is just baseball. But
Mhm.
after a while, it gets to your head.
Yes, that's true.
So I absolutely had a stretch of feeling insecure because of that.
How did you overcome that? How did you get through that?
I had to learn to not define myself by exterior things.
Mhm.
Okay, I defined myself by what I had. I defined myself by what people thought about me, and I had to find my own truth. Just start all over again,
Yeah.
because part of what I was trying to do is I was trying to somehow prop up what was.
Mhm.
And at some point, you have to just knock the house down and rebuild.
Right.
So for me, it was a lot of just centering myself and finding purpose. Getting back to your point that you mentioned about making more than your ex, I think when you live with a sense of purpose, then the amount of money is not as important
Right.
as if you're just working for money.
Mhm.
So that's what helped me also is I found a sense of purpose.
Mhm.
Wow.
Okay.
I get that.
The most influential person in my life was my drama teacher. And I can count 100 kids that would say exactly the same thing that came from my school. Well, it's not like he was a millionaire. He's a drama
Mhm.
teacher.
Right.
But he
That's
lived
profound.
his purpose.
Hmm.
Mhm.
When you live your purpose, Martin Luther King didn't have any money.
Mhm.
Harry Belafonte paid all his bills.
Mhm.
Okay? But he lived with purpose. That would not be an insecure
And
man.
you know what's you know
a
what's
word.
really interesting that you say that actually, because I think for us as women, we're speaking for women when we're seeing men, a sense of self in a man, a confidence about a man. You will see women that are beautiful and have all their stuff together with the brokest guy on the planet
Mhm.
because he exudes confidence. He's very, sometimes it's arrogance, but whatever. It's just that confidence,
Mhm.
and he could literally have not a penny to his name. But that's to
Mhm.
what I said earlier. For me, it's the grit and the grind and the heart of a man that's much more
Mhm.
seductive to me than
Yeah.
the fact that he's driving a fancy car.
And then to know that I can trust that you're going to be there. Like
Mhm.
when you're with somebody and you can't trust that they're going to have your back, it doesn't have to do with money. It's just like, are you going to support me emotionally? Are you going to help me make a solution for my problems? Like
Mhm.
that's more important than like
Yeah.
the money.
And men aren't used to that part of things because that's new, right? Women are very unselfish for the most part.
Hmm.
Women are very good team players. So if a woman makes a lot of money, it's
Mhm.
our money.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and I'll listen. I'll be honest. And I'll be honest. I'm very honest because in being that I'm a successful or perceivably a successful woman.
Don't play with my money.
No, but what I was also going to say, I know other women who have money, but there are women, in fairness, that will emasculate their men when they're making more money,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
that's a big
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, that's
You know,
That
it's
definitely
because
doesn't
us
work.
women get our complexes too, right? And so
Mhm.
we get this, we make this money and we're doing it. I'm just being fair, keeping it real,
Yeah.
and the women will try to, you know,
Mhm.
do the peacock thing, like they
Yeah.
want to spread their feathers, like they're the man. You know, they got
Well,
their
you're
proverbial
guaranteed
penis.
to have an insecure man
Yeah,
if you
that
do
is true.
that.
Yeah.
If you go in,
Yeah.
especially if you go into the
100%.
relationship, yeah. With
Yeah.
that
So I
sort
want to
of
go into the next point real quick. And that is, sorry, Quan, caught you off guard. Which we kind of tapped on this, so we'll kind of go over this really quickly. But
Mhm.
again, when his girlfriend or significant other, doesn't matter, is more successful than him.
Mhm.
And we kind of already touched on that. But why, and I guess, Ruben, it's what you said,
Mhm.
just historically with men. Do you want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that
Yeah.
and why that might be
I
an
think
insecurity for
that's
men?
something that I think that you look at all cultures, you look at the Bible, you look at the Quran. It talks about it was definitive of a man, and a big part of that is being a family man, being able to hold down a household, take care of your girl, take care of your kids. So it's like something that's been a part of human society for a long, long time. And I really think, if you want to be honest, I think we need to reevaluate it. I'm an immigrant in brown communities, especially my Hispanic communities. There's this idea called machismo,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
like
I've heard that before.
I'm the man and I run things. You need to be subservient to me. I have like this sense of like, manliness in my household. And there's a lot of like negative stuff that comes out of that. And you can see that now, especially in the United States, where we see like, especially in those communities, the immigrant community, the brown community, women are actually doing better than men. So this is a conversation that's actually like really reshaping many of the power dynamics within these households.
Right.
So it's happening right now. It's going to be interesting to see, what this leads to. But we know it's happening. We see it happening at an exponential rate. Even at my high school, Rancho High School is predominantly minority majority. And the women are graduating in much higher numbers than the men
That
are.
is so fascinating.
And it's changing the
Yeah.
game. I mean,
Yeah.
y'all go girls for real. I mean,
Yeah,
women are doing
but
it.
also too, it again, I think you're right. That's something that we have to reevaluate because
hmm
you want the outside world, you want your outside world to be successful, but you also want to have success within your home.
Yeah.
And when people are feeling insecure,
hmm
when one person's insecure, the other person's going to end
Yeah,
up with
yeah.
resentment and
Yeah.
vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like if a woman wants to thrive and do well, as we're talking about this, and the man's like, well, she's better than me, or she
Mhm.
thinks she's better than me, or I think she's better than me, and now I feel like I'm this small.
Yeah.
And then the woman's like, well, I don't want to stay at home, be with children. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to do this. I want to live my life.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of like, how do we tap into that and create healthy conversations where people can express, which We're going to go into the love topic next, and we're
Mhm.
actually going to talk about emotions when it comes to men as well.
Mhm.
So love,
Love it.
insecurities when it comes to love.
Mhm.
And our first bullet point is Marvin Gaye's sexual healing. The sexual ability of a man. Now here, when I was reading these different articles and things like that, for some reason, this one surprised me,
Mhm.
right? And I don't know why, because I think us women are so worried about being enough and,
Mhm.
and we feel so vulnerable when we're intimate with men and whatever, that you don't even think that the guy's overly concerned with his
Yeah.
Mhm.
whether or not he has a great sexual ability.
Right.
So is this, gentlemen, a fact of
Mhm.
insecurity? And what is the insecurity all about?
I'll try to take that one on as somebody who's never been married. I've only been in I'm trying to find a wife. So if anybody's out there, come holler, hit me in the DM.
You're gonna be blown up
My mom is
today.
really getting on me about that now, so I gotta do something here. But I think it does matter. There is a sense that you want to be, especially I think if as crazy as it sounds, if that man is somebody who cares about about his woman.
Okay.
He wants to make sure that she's also being satisfied. She's also being taken care of. It just can't be just about the men. And I know a lot of my friends, guy friends. I mean, I'm pretty sure Rodney will agree. It's all about them. Like, did she
Right.
perform well? Did she make sure I was good and all
What's
that
in it for me,
without
yeah.
putting the work and effort in to satisfy his woman. So I think that of course, if you're a caring man, you're going to worry about and care about your ability to perform in that sector. I'm
Right.
just
I
saying.
guess that's true.
So is there pressure? Sorry, I didn't. mean to
No,
cut you
go
off.
for it.
Mhm.
In the conversations being had about like, if you guys are having an intimate conversation amongst guys about sex and they're like, yeah, I want her to do all this. Is there pressure to not say, well, like, man, did you like want to take care of her, or like that doesn't come up?
Men talk about the subject very differently than women.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
He's
men
like, no, that doesn't happen.
men don't tend to talk about their wives or girlfriends.
Mm.
They talk about conquest.
Mhm.
Okay, so because men don't want you
Other men.
imagining
Mhm.
your woman,
Mhm.
so men rarely talk about their serious relationships with
Oh, that's
another
interesting.
guy.
I never thought about. They'll talk
Yeah.
about their side pieces. Kind
Oh
of
yeah,
thing.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody at the club
Yeah.
Saturday night all night long,
Mhm.
right? But their intimate partners, men rarely
Yeah.
talk about
Ah,
the
that's
I gotta
intimacies.
agree with
that
that,
makes
Rodney,
sense.
on that
Yeah,
too.
totally.
Now, because I used to, when I was married, I would be with my wife, and I'm always around women, right? Be like
Mhm.
5 women and me, and they'd be talking about my friend, like the husband that's not there. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, that can be
Oh.
it.
Women go there, right? They forget I'm there, right?
Ah, that's
But
too funny.
guys talk about it differently. But guys also have a difficult time having difficult conversations,
Mhm.
right?
Such
so,
as?
sex,
Yeah.
right? So if
Uh-huh.
a woman's not satisfied or wants to talk about exactly what it is, men sometimes feel emasculated by it, or they're ashamed of it. They want to think they master something that they haven't mastered,
Mhm.
Right.
right? And because women are very different, and their conquests, a lot of guys are single for a long time, right? And when you're single and you're just kind of hooking up, they're not concerned about is the woman satisfied or
Mhm.
anything very deep. And when you get into a real relationship, a lot of guys have no clue,
Mhm.
none.
You know, it's interesting you say that because as you're saying things are coming to me, and I would love to ask either of you, whoever wants to chime in, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but how does a woman, when she's in a monogamous, intimate, like a relationship where there's love and connection,
Mhm.
and maybe there are certain things that she's not necessarily satisfied with.
Mhm.
I can say, and maybe I think, us girls talk about it all the time. It's like when you love your man
Mhm.
and you're intimate, but you want maybe this versus this, or you want certain things, or you need more of this. It's sometimes very difficult to have that conversation with the man because they get the
Right.
insecurity
Yeah,
kicks
right.
in, and you don't know how to approach it without making them feel like they're not performing properly.
Mhm.
So
No,
what
that
would
is-
be
that is
a
good-
tip on
yeah.
that?
I'd say
Yeah.
just be honest and communicate. The older I get, I've seen that communication is key. It's not about hiding or trying to put a facade up, but that communication can be one of the healthiest. It's the foundation of the relationship. And it's so funny about this because I was having a conversation with a female friend of mine about this, and it's so true. Just let us know, and you'll be surprised just how willing, especially if you are some in a committed relationship, how serious we are to actually to
step up to the-
step up to the plate and and to work with you on anything, whether it's sex, whether it's finances, whether it's taking care of kids. I mean,
I'd like to
it's
think
real.
that's true, but I've struggled with that. I mean, I've had relationships where and maybe it's the approach, I don't know, but I feel like I'm a communicator. Like I'm just straight up.
Yeah.
But at the same time too, maybe we could talk about this a little bit too. I'm a very alpha, strong female, but I feel like I have, I'm cognitive enough to know my approach for the most part, unless I'm frustrated. But it's still very difficult when you have someone who's really insecure to have conversations about finances, to say, baby, I'm happy with you, but I'd like you to do a little bit more of this or whatever, and without them being defensive or feeling offended by what you're trying to do or even when you're trying to have their finances a big thing. I've noticed that because I'm a financial woman, because I have made money in my past relationship, recently there was an issue about money and some investment stuff. And I went to have a conversation about the investment, and the person got very, very defensive. And it's like, I'm just trying to have your back. I'm not trying to control your finances, control your money. I'm not even asking you specifics on that. I'm just saying, be careful, be wise. And it was a difficult conversation. So how do you overcome that as a woman, especially as we talked earlier, how women are starting to level up? If I were a man saying that to my man, if it was his boy saying the same thing, he wouldn't have felt the same way. But it's the fact that it's coming from me, the woman, it was felt differently. So how do women overcome that? How do we talk to our men without them feeling like we're belittling them or that they're not smart
or
enough?
Challenging them. It's always like defensive. They just get defensive. Like,
how would you guys say it?
Did you want to take that on first? And
Come on, Brandon.
I'll spit next.
It's communication style, I think. If guys feel attacked, the wall goes up. So sometimes, if there's an issue, it has to be addressed. It should be addressed. And just something that you're noticed or something that you're concerned, not that he's doing anything wrong, okay, whether it's money or sex or whatever, that this is another way of seeing something. This is what you see from your perspective, not about him doing something wrong. Because there are things that are crossing what were guys, their realm before, like money. That was the guy's realm, right?
Gotcha.
So he's real sensitive about that, right? So when someone can respect what you see and that you're just sharing a perspective and not telling him what to do, that opens the door up to him to say, okay, let me check her perspective out, especially if he knows you're smart. Let me see what she sees.
Right.
Instead of someone saying, you're doing this, you should be doing that. Okay? Anything that makes him feel emasculated, he's going to get really defensive about.
That's true. And I'll say, I 100% agree with that. And myself, especially somebody who works with younger people who are like coming into that age where they are dating, they're having these conversations for the first time in their lives. I'll say that, I think we have to reevaluate just what we value in men and women. The reality is we want women to be equal to men. We don't want to have these situations where, you have a man who's bringing home the bacon, the wife staying at home, taking care of the kids. There's a power dynamic there that is very unfair towards women. And it's been like that for thousands of years. But we're at a place now in society where women are, in some communities, making more than the man. So we have to look at what we value in the genders, the sexes, whatever, and also in relationships. I think the focus, as you said, Lorraine, needs to be on that mutual respect you have for one another, as opposed to who's making the money, who's going to be calling the shots, who's going to be running the budget. There has to be a form of partnership there. And as a millennial, I'll say that, the ultimate committed relationship, marriage, there's actually been a decline. There's numbers on this. Baby boomers, it was about 66% of them were married. 53% for the generation X, and millennials at 48%.
Wow.
48, the majority of us have never been married, and I'm one of them, and I'm in my mid-30s. So there's this understanding now that these sort of relationships are being reevaluated, and it's mostly men, it seems like, from the initial data, who are saying that, maybe we don't want to be in a relationship.
Interesting.
Because, as Rodney said, like, what's the purpose sometimes? They're asking that question.
Another thing that's missing, this is a good point, is women are in their masculine so much now.
Yes.
And men love the feminine. Okay? So a lot of times men will react to you almost like a man. They'll talk to you almost like a man.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
And men also need to be stroked. Like they want to be your hero. Right? So that's missing today.
It is.
Okay? When I lived in Hawaii, a guy would go surfing and the girl would sit on the beach for 2 hours, clapping. She doesn't want to be there, right? But he's showing off for his woman. Guys love that.
But you have, here's the thing though, and I hear you on that. I hear you, but it's difficult for me and my personality
Hmm.
because I'm not looking to necessarily be an equal. And I actually love, and I know when you say masculine and feminine, I know that's just an energy, right? It doesn't
Right.
necessarily
Right.
mean whatever, because I know feminine men and masculine women, whatever.
Right.
But to your point, that's exactly right. As a matter of fact, her and I had a conversation when I was in my relationship. And one of the things that she said to me is that when you guys are together, it's like you're more masculine around him. And she's like, but when you move away, it's like, I love when you're in your feminine, and it's like, but I love it too. I don't want to have to be masculine, but some people's energies bring that out in you, because when you are trying to be feminine, it's like you don't feel safe in that space.
Mhm.
And so, but you're right, to your point. Then when you're bringing in your masculine energy and your woman with your man, then it's like two guys going at it.
Right.
And it's hard to find the balance in that, I think.
The words too, like equality in relationships, like we look at it dollar for dollar. Like, okay, I make more money, he makes less money, so I'm up here, he's down here. Instead of like coming to the balance of, okay, she makes more money, this is what my roles are, this is what my roles are as the woman, your roles are as the man, and then that word submission, like men is biblical if you believe, men are the head of the household. And sometimes I think we as women that are independent, we take on this role like we got to take care of everything, and we don't know how to let that guard go because we can't trust it. And it's the man's responsibility to make us feel like we can trust that he can be that lead. I know I don't mind a man leading me as long as I can trust it. Do you agree? Or
No, I'm 100. I think that that's the misconception
Yeah.
with someone like myself, is that I have such a strong personality, and that I'm at the forefront of a lot of things in my life. But I honestly want to. I wave the
Yeah,
flag
like,
in my
here, you
relationship,
got it.
but it's hard for me to remove who I am. Right, I still am who I am. But the more a man would understand that this is just who she is, there's not a threat there, because men are threatened by women who are strong personalities. They love you in the beginning. That's something that they're so like, wow,
Yeah.
she's got it all. But when you get really involved, it seems, at least for me and my personal experience, it's always what bites you in the butt at the end.
Yeah, because you don't feel safe. With
And then
with
they don't
with
feel
that
safe either.
vulnerability. So again, it's really about a proper matchup,
Yeah.
Yeah.
compatibility, where you feel safe and that person has earned that trust from you. And guys, they want to be your hero somewhere.
Right.
So
okay.
if a
I get
woman
that.
is making more money and he doesn't feel like your hero somewhere, that's when he gets insecure. You've got to be cheering him on somewhere. We're like little kids. We're just always showing
I heard
off.
the little kid part loud and
like
clear.
we're always showing off for girls. We're showing off.
I get
Yeah.
that. I
Right.
think
So-
that resonates with me. I
so,
think I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember in my marriage, I played on this flag football league for like 3 years in my early 30s. And all the girlfriends and wives would come down and, cheer on the guy. They don't really care, but they're just there
Yeah.
clapping, and their little kids are running around. And my wife never came 3 years, not once, right? And as a guy, I'm going to run faster.
Yeah.
I'm going to make that one-hand
Right.
catch because I'm
Right.
showing off for
There's
her.
girls there, yeah.
And that's a big thing. And I think guys won't say it. Like, I wouldn't say, hey, could you come down because I
But I
want to
think
show
as
off
women
for you.
need that. It's that whole like love language thing, right? Like everybody's human needs are different. They're more important on different levels, and I think that again, it goes down to communication and being able to really communicate. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next point, which is being insecure about his emotions. This, I feel like, is a huge problem for a lot of men in a lot of different cultural society. And I love how you really know stats and numbers and things like that. I know you're really well read in these things. This is a big one because particularly like here in the United States, there is definitely this emphasis that boys have to be like this and girls have to be like this, and girls are the emotional ones and the guys are not. And so there's this whole thing about that. So what would you guys say about being insecure about your emotions?
Yeah, I'd say that this is probably the one thing that is 100% accurate. It's probably the biggest issue here, because we are, as boys, as young men, as men, even as older men, we're taught that we have to be in control and we cannot show weakness through our emotions. It's something that's reinforced through our politics, through our social settings, through, religion, that you have to be in control and you cannot like have those moments of vulnerability, and you cannot for sure display them. And when we do display them, I mean, you can look around you. Look how we're treated. If a man cries or something, oh, you're weak. You look at the social media storms that erupt. If a man has that vulnerable moment in a public setting. So that right there is probably one of the reasons why men have such pent up, sort of emotions and that insecurity of showing that emotion becomes problematic. And it's an issue across the board, from family life, relationships, your relationship with your kids. You can have certain, maybe certain presidents and stuff who have like an issue showing vulnerability and emotions. They always want to show bravado. You have that, you see that. So I think across the gamut, it's probably the single most detrimental sort of habit that's
insecurity
really
that men
that's
have
become part of our character as males today.
So then my next question would be this, because I feel like it's important, but I also understand why what's the word I'm looking for? The valor, I don't know if that's the right word, in a man being strong and putting on his suit of armor and being that warrior. I get it. But for us women, how do we understand our men enough to get them to be emotional with us? Because I've heard guys say it, I've done it myself, where the guy comes home from work, he's had a stressful day, he's overwhelmed. The girl's like, "How was your day? How was your day?" And they're like, I'm good, and they don't want to talk about it. And us women we drill our men to open up, and then we start to feel upset or resenting or whatever it may be, because it's like, gosh, God, he never wants to talk to me about anything. And so how can you make us as women understand?
Being quiet, just listen.
But you want to understand your man, but how do we as women make our men feel comfortable enough that they can be emotional or vulnerable with us as women?
I mean, real quick, and I know probably Rodney has something to say about this too. I think in the end, this is something that men have to, come together as men and do it and solve. We have to encourage men to talk about vulnerability. That's one of the first things we talked about when we sat down here, is you have to support men's groups, fraternal organizations, mental health facilities, mental health clinics and stuff that actually encourage men to sit down together as men and open up to one another. I think it's one of the healthiest things that we can encourage today as a society, because it's not going to happen. Men are not going to open up to women. To their wives, to their girlfriends, even to their there's a lot of studies that show that even to their daughters, they won't be as willing to open up, because you've been, again, reinforced by society to be that strong figure, that real, like, stable figure in that setting. So we have to come together as men and have these conversations. And I'll say particularly as black and brown men, where it's even more, there's this sense that you have to be like that dude.
Right. That's so true.
I'm telling you, we have to encourage men opening up to one another and having these conversations about vulnerability and insecurity.
I'm in a men's mastermind group where we sit around about 12, 13 guys, and we get raw about men's stuff, sex, whatever. We just talk about things that men don't have anywhere to go with. And it's so awesome to see guys get comfortable with vulnerability. Men, the emotion that they're most uncomfortable with is hurt. Okay? They're comfortable with a lot of emotions, but hurt is a big one. Because they don't want to admit that something hurt them. That's where the anger comes. When you have abuse sometimes in a household, it's like a volcano that just explodes because they're holding down hurt.
And not to interrupt, because this is coming to my head too, and you said the word hurt, that resonates, because I also recognize with some men that they don't like to acknowledge when they've hurt someone else.
Right.
It's like they sweep it under the rug. It's too painful for them to say, this woman that I love is telling me that I hurt her, and I know that I've hurt her, but instead of acknowledging it or being accountable to it, I'd rather sweep it under the rug, because it's almost like they're too insecure, or it makes them too vulnerable to even express that. So I wanted to kind of throw it out there, and hopefully you can add to that as well.
Yeah, I think men need to find places where they can begin to know how awesome it feels to open up. Like, I'm very open. I could talk about anything. I love talking. I love communication. I don't mind crying. It's not weak to me. but men need to experience
Yeah,
how good
100%.
that feels.
Yep.
And so then what would us as women do? What could women do when they're talking to their men to make given that sense? Because I think, and again, admittedly so, I'm someone who can admit where I've made mistakes, where I've had relationships where the men felt comfortable to be vulnerable, and I've made the mistake of kind of throwing it back at them at some point when I'm very angry. So what would be some things if women were listening saying, oh, I didn't realize that, I didn't get that, that women could do actually to say, what do I need to do to really make my significant other feel safe for those vulnerabilities?
I think you can take subjects that you know there might be an issue behind. Say if the guy had issues with his father, right? To slowly discuss that and let him share. Slowly, not going right in for the zinger, right? But let him share that experience about growing up or what it was like, and ask questions about areas that are sensitive, right? So say like if a father was abusive, guys will just bury that because they're men now, and they don't want to admit that that little boy is still hurt. So sometimes just asking them what it was like and asking questions to draw it out works really well, right? And then he gets comfortable because it feels good. It feels good to get stuff out of your head and out of your mouth. It really does feel good.
Yeah, it's therapeutic.
So
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
ask questions about things, and not when there's a problem. That's the thing. A lot of
Right.
times we're
That's what I mean
trying
by
to
be
dig
quiet,
when there's
just-
an issue. No, when there's not an issue. You know, something might come up, and the father might have called, and hey, you such an asshole.
Yeah.
Right.
Then right there, just kind of dig, and that he'll get so comfortable, and he'll feel so great.
So it's
that,
time and place, essentially.
time and place.
It's,
Time and
it's a
place.
constant communication
Right.
between the two.
Yeah.
Like
A-
relationships are
A
relating.
lot
to
of
one another, yeah.
times, women make the mistake of forcing a conversation at the wrong time. Emotions are high, right? You're just digging in there, and that's not the right time.
That makes sense. All right, so I want to move on to the next point because we're our time is. I want to get these in. This is so
Let's get
good
'em all
though.
in.
We really need to do another session of this. So the next one is about ourselves. So about these insecurities that men have, and the first one I have is the physical appearance. You know, obviously with us women, we talked about this last week and the week before about our self-image and the struggles with women chasing, father time and us aging and, just our physical appearance, because us as women, I mean, quite frankly, we feel as though that men are mostly attracted to young, vibrant women, right? And so we're always trying to fight that. But do you as men have insecurities with your physical appearance and insecurities about it?
I say for sure, yeah, of course. And you're absolutely right. Again, the studies show that there's a preference for younger, women out there. Whether it's the news, you look at how many young or older women winning the Oscar or something like that, or the anchors on the news. You see all kinds of older men doing that. That is a clear evidence of like the disparity there. But I'll say, yeah, of course, I think men are. But I would also argue and say we're not as much overly insecure about our appearances as, say, women are. Because, again, society values different things in men. It values our ability to bring home the bacon, our financial stability, our success, in the end. So that's something that really boosts the confidence of a man, much more, I would say, than it is our looks or our fashion sense and things like that. I think it matters. Of course, it's important. But it's not probably the one of the things that society is determining as being the most important in how we're valued.
That's true. There's a saying that goes, men fall in love with women they're attracted to, and women become attracted to the men that they love. It's just the way we're wired, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense because literally when you fall, if the man's getting in your head and you're now got the butterflies for him and you're in love with him, you will find anything on him. He could be ugly, like ugly, right? Howard the Duck ugly. And you'll say, but look at that beak.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you just look at
And
that
that
beak.
tail.
And that tail.
Aw, he's so cute.
And they get the baddies.
Well,
They get them.
we'll look for something as long as he makes us feel good.
Yeah.
Whereas I've seen men with the most amazing women, and they'll be like, I love my wife. She cooks the best food and she's good with the kids, but man, she has let herself go. And they're so unforgiving of us getting older or even gaining weight and so on. You were going to say something, Rodney?
Well, insecure men just go to the gym every day and drink 10 protein shakes a day. You see them.
You got a point. You got a real good point.
It's not as big an issue with men. Some, yes. It's other things. It could be
Like?
for men. Well, I hate to offend anybody. Height would be a big one.
Height, balding,
Yeah.
like
Height and hair.
man body, or
Huge.
what is it, dad
Dad
bod?
No, well, you did that to yourself, right? but the other things is out of your control. So yeah, it could be things like that.
Gotcha. I mean, it's not being offensive. It's just being a reality. I
Right.
mean, Carmen has had this problem because I'm vertically challenged, right? I'm 5'2", we'll call it. But Carmen, she's a taller woman, and there has been some, if you want to share, where she's dated men who were shorter.
Oh God.
And what?
No, I feel well when I dated. I tried. I like a tall man is like everything for me. But
Right.
yeah, I have dated short men, and it is for me. It's an insecurity because I never want to feel like I'm bigger
yeah.
or
Yeah.
taller than. But I've sucked it up, Howard the
Yeah,
Duck.
no, it's fun. It's funny because one time I'm 5'11", so I'm not short, right? But my friend needed a date for this gala, and she's 6'1", flat-footed,
Oh,
and
yeah,
her
she's very
date
tall.
Yeah.
her date flaked out. Ronnie, can you go a minute to sing?
Mhm.
She's got heels on. I swear to God, she was like 6'5" that
Mhm.
night,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I get it. Right?
Oh, did you feel?
It felt weird,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I did not feel manly,
Mhm.
because she was towering over me.
It's so interesting too because like the average height for a man is about 5'8", I think.
5'9", 5'10".
Yeah.
American
5'9",
men
5'10",
maybe.
yeah.
Or
Yeah,
is that 5'9", 5'10"? I
five
don't know. I
nine
haven't
is
looked
the
at.
official.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, I get it. I get that might be an insecure, but I think because I'm such a petite person
Mhm.
that I remember my ex-husband, for example, when people were asking about, I was like, oh, he's tall, dark, and handsome. And I'm like, they're like, how tall? I'm like putting my arms up like he's like this. And then they meet him and he's 5'7". And they're like, where's the rest of him?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he's got like 5 inches on me. So for
Yeah.
me, he was tall. But
I'm like
anyway.
5'11"
Yeah, I think
with
that's
heels
because
on.
I'm 5'7". I'm below the average. But I think especially when you're younger, you're an athlete. Those sort of things they matter because the taller you are, the better you can perform in sports. And so it was always a challenge for me. But I think if you come to accept it and you're just like, hey, look, I am who I am, moving forward. And I've dated women who are much taller than me. I haven't had too many issues with it, even though I knew I'd get like the looks and stuff, and people would say things. But at first, I think again, maturity. When you're younger, you think about it. It kind of like messes with you. But the older you get, it's like Usher. He's talked a lot about this too.
Is he
Like,
short?
He dated a woman. I think his wife was taller than him. and
Oh,
he was
okay.
much
5'8". Yeah.
Oh, is
Yeah.
he?
Is
I
he
didn't know he's that short.
So he says, it's about not letting that really be an issue. If you're vibing with that
Yeah.
individual and that person who you're with isn't really having an issue with it, then it shouldn't really matter what other people
Yeah.
are saying.
I think it was more of an issue for me.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of times men do have issues because men know that a lot of women have issues because women want to feel dainty,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right? So some women are just, they're not fat. They're just big,
Mhm.
wide, broad shoulders, and they're just bigger women.
Mhm.
And a lot of times they just don't feel
Feminine.
feminine
Right.
with
Right.
someone who's smaller or
Mhm.
slight.
Well, listen, this is good. We're gonna close it on that, but I want to do a round robin, which I
All
love
right.
to do on all the shows, and just your little, whatever you feel you want to say as far as the insecurities and mindset about insecurities and what you think. So, like a 30-second or less than of what you think for men
Mhm.
are ways for them to overcome some of their insecurities or whatever just comes to your mind on the topic. So, do you want to go first, Ruben?
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
I think that again, we have to reevaluate what we value, in men. I think it's this, especially with like women doing well. There's women's equality is a real thing. So we have to look at exactly what we value in men, what we value in women. And when it comes to being in a relationship, I think that having equality, having parity is a good thing because then you're going to come to love that person for who they are,
You're right.
not what they're bringing financially or some tangibly into the relationship. So it really becomes a much better situation when you care about that person for who they are as opposed to what they have in their bank account.
I love that. What about you, Mr. All Good?
To
It's all good.
address insecurity, find yourself, know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because confidence comes from that. Confidence comes from self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Know who you are. Find something that gives you a purpose-driven life.
Yep.
Because that will exude confidence also.
Amen to that.
Right?
Nice.
And it becomes about the energy that you're putting out, and people respond to that. And never compare yourself to other people. That's a big one. When you compare yourself to other people, you'll only look at the people who seem like they're doing better than you. You're not looking at the people who wish they were you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And then there's both in the room.
A
Right.
ton, right? And if you're on the move, more behind you than in front of you, really.
Yeah.
Right? But if you are always comparing yourself, you'll never feel good enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you're living your purpose, everything falls into place.
Absolutely.
And can I just say one thing real
Yeah, of
quickly?
course.
And as somebody who works with younger people, this is a big issue with them. They're constantly on social media, watching their friends doing great things on Instagram and Facebook, and it's not real. You just put what you want to put up there.
Right.
So this is becoming a real issue now, pertaining to depression, suicide rates that have been on the rise, amongst young people. So Rodney's absolutely right that having that self-worth, knowing yourself and loving yourself really, and not comparing yourself to others is probably the foundation for having a healthy relationship with
I
yourself
love that.
and
I
others.
think that's so profound. It's so true. You were gonna, Miss Carmen. What about you?
No, I'm gonna let them end it with their.
But I do want to
perspectives.
say this from a woman's perspective, real quick, is that there is nothing sexier or seductive than a man who has a great sense of himself.
Mhm.
And to your point, when he's grounded, I don't care what his height is, what his bank account is, I don't care what anything else. When he has a sense of self, and even is aware of what his insecurities are, and is okay to know that those are a thing for him, you got me at hello
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Like seriously. So
Yeah.
anyway, I want to thank you, gentlemen. We could have talked
Thank
so
you.
much more. I
this
know
is a
we're a little
great
pressed for
discussion,
time, but I really appreciate it. I'd love to have you guys back again.
Let's do it.
We'll
Yeah,
do some other topics or whatever, but I
let us
really
know.
appreciate you're the first set of guys come on the show, and I couldn't think of two better men to do it. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all out there for watching another episode of The Mindsetters. Until next time, ciao.